ABR Facts 2012 Extended Progress Overview of the 3-year-old girl, GMFCS level 4 quadriplegic cerebral palsy. Part 2, cerebral palsy, sitting improvement in a weak quadriplegic child, why structure matters most. The next set of fundamentals we are going to look at is the set of sitting positions. We're going to start with this tailless sitting position on the floor, right? And let's review what's happening here. I'm lifting her up and then just withdrawing my hand, and then boom, we can see that the child is falling. You can see that she's making an effort, but then eventually she does the fall. It's very important to notice she is not out of understanding of what she actually wants to do. She really makes an effort, but it's the weakness of the entire trunk that makes it impossible. And in order to make the comparison perfectly correct, I'm going to really go via the comparable elements. You see here, this is her best and most favorable position. She can stay like this for long minutes. But when she's being lifted to the sitting position, what happens? She starts arching backwards. So this is their natural response. And the reason for this natural response, for this arching backwards and loss of positioning backwards and lack of counterbalancing, comes from the weakness on the front. And you can see that when I start bending her forwards, what happens? She just folds down, and then it's very clear this is another instance of this ragdoll performance. And once I remove my hands, that's it. She just stays on the ground. Now let's compare it with the newly found abilities. What happens here? We are seeing the counterbalancing. We are seeing that she is capable, when being tested and being moved back and forth, she is able to control her head, she is able to get the counter movements with the trunk, right? So her sitting platform is all the way on the ground, even though this is a more difficult position, right? So her legs are not being bent, she's actually having her legs off. But nonetheless, she's very competent and very capable of resisting, but resisting in the correct fashion of counterbalancing, rather than doing it in the paradoxical way of throwing herself backwards as she was doing it before. So this is very clear comparison. Now let's move to the next thing, because here we've been comparing the supports by the trunk. Well, let's see what we are going to observe when the support moves to the level of the arms. But before we do so, just give me a few seconds on demonstrating this performance of the healthy child. And you can see this remarkable strength of the trunk, and then what happens when the child is being moved. The leg could be moved selectively from the upper body, and the upper body maintains the remarkable strength. So this is the key to the performance of the healthy child. This is the emphasis. Everything that the healthy child does, especially at the very beginning, during the first year, originates from the stability of the core. And when this stability of the core is missing, when the trunk is weak, when the head control is poor, when the arms are not connecting properly to the body, well, the unfortunate outcome is what we see. It's not the problem of the movement intelligence. This girl, she understands really well what she wants to do. She just being incapable to get the performance right. And the essence of the transformation that she had over this year has been the remarkable strengthening of the core. We gave her, or ABR work of the parents gave her the strength of the core, gave her the strength of the trunk, gave her the ability to get the connection of the head, and what you see, then her movement intelligence really gained the opportunity to shine. Now her driver intelligence, right, actually gets the vehicle, gets the car that she can properly use. And continuing the car analogy, I think it's quite clear, right? So now she's being supported by a single hand, and she has enough of the trunk strength and enough of the head control to maintain the position. Whilst before, even with two arms support, what was happening? well, there wasn't any strength in the upper body, there wasn't any strength in the connection of the arms. So what was happening? The ragdoll performance. She was just dropping down on the ground absolutely helplessly. And that's what I want you to link to. Think of the car where the wheels are completely disconnected, where the entire drivetrain is just shredded to pieces and just being, well, instead of being properly welded together, is just, hangs loose on some few wires. Well, why would we say that the driver is not really getting the correct messages and the car is not moving because of the driver? Because that's what neurology tells you, right? So everyone tells you that, well, the brain is at fault, the brain makes the wrong messages and so on. My message to you is very different. Look at the fundamentals, look at the key elements of the connection, and once you look at those fundamentals of the connection, you're going to find that her problem is not the lack of understanding what she actually wants to do. Her problem is exactly the opposite. Once she has the proper strength of the body, she can use it. But when she doesn't have the strength, well, she is being betrayed by all these disconnected elements. I invite you to review this sequence. You can see that she is ready for action. I'm lifting her up, but then what happens? Boom, the body just goes down. I'm lifting her up again. She tries to hold her head. I'm withdrawing my hand, and again, boom, she goes down. And her arm doesn't help her. Well, watch the new situation 1 year after ABR. Well, we help her to improve those connections. Well, the arm is now stitched and attached to the body, and that allows her to get these counterbalancing movements. So it's that simple. Give your child their proper connections, build some strength, and you'll be amazed what kind of movement intelligence is going to shine through. So this is the key lesson from this section, that if the child has no strength, well, no matter what understanding is present there, she wouldn't be able to save her position. And the opposite, once she has the strength, she is able to control her own position with ease and competence and actually put her efforts, put her focus into connection to the environment. I think it's very obvious when you look at those pictures that once she has confidence in the sufficient strength of her body, she's really engaged. She looks around, she looks at me, she looks back at her parents, she gets into the interaction. So this is quite amazing and remarkable. I'm giving you a closer view so that you can appreciate this, right? So as I move her around, she keeps looking at me. I'm sort of trying my entertainment with making faces, which seems to be having some success with her. And then she is actually ready to share this excitement with her parents. So this is the amazing thing, right? You can see how much more interaction she is able to show once she has the competence of the body. So this is remarkable. And on the left, in the left window, we are seeing the things before. Well, the attempt to support her by two arms, what was it? It was a complete failure. Of course, she was absolutely unable to do anything in this situation. The arms are physically like detached. Look at this, pictures. Well, in this particular situation, how could she possibly have any control or any engagement in the sitting position? And the similar troubles she experienced with the trunk support. Well, what I'm showing here is very clear picture. She tries to save herself, right? She doesn't want to fall down, but she can't because the trunk is too weak, the chest is too collapsible, and with this collapsible chest she uses all sorts of muscular twists and so on trying to bring herself up, but then boom, she falls down. The same thing happens here. She really tries to save herself in all sorts of ways, but what happens? The body is just too weak, and therefore her intelligence, her understanding of the situation doesn't get the opportunity to shine through. And one more time, I'm inviting you to review how she has changed. You see, this is a selective control of the eyes. And as I'm moving around, well, what is she going to do? And I'm actually doing all this at the same time. I'm kind of fiddling with her body, trying to make her lose her balance, but she is able to counterbalance, to restore the upper body position. And then, well, what does she do? She looks at me. So she turns around. So this is the amazing change of her abilities, which could be seen both on the physical and, well, shall I say, on the alertness and the intellectual and behavioral way. And I hope it's quite obvious to see the difference with the past, where when she was losing her position, she felt scared and uncomfortable. Well, in this extended video, we got the overview of several key positions. The support by the trunk in sitting. We looked at the support by the arms in sitting and found out the remarkable difference, which was particularly clear when the support was just by a single arm. But, well, to be honest, the disconnections of her arms were so bad that even the two arms weren't helping her much in maintaining the sitting position. Then we have reviewed the position on the floor, her incapacitation and inability to hold the head or transfer the weight on the arms, which again has undergone remarkable difference between just 1 year of ABR work. And I believe that the most impressive or the best kind of summary of her changes is given by this, given by the supported flight position, right? The support by the chest in the air with subsequent landing on the arms, because that really allows us to understand the extent of the weakness that she had before, and at the same time shows the remarkable transformation just 1 year later. Well, in the next part of this video, we're going to dig even deeper and explore the fundamentals behind it. We're going to explore what were the specifics which actually made this performance so troublesome to begin with. We're going to look at the specifics of the disconnections of the shoulder blade. We're going to look at the weaknesses of the neck connection. We're going to look at the weaknesses of the shoulder joint connection. And of course, we're going to review the weakness of the chest itself. And of course, we're going to have the look at the transformations that took place afterwards. Well, we covered more ground in this important chapter, and we really touched the very, very big question about the relationship between the fundamental physical structure and the relationship with the signals and neurology. So this is our central message to you, why structure matters most. So the short summary is going to be beneficial. The first very, very powerful and very important message: don't blame the brain. Even a quadriplegic child with cerebral palsy has plenty of movement intelligence and inner desire to move. As this picture clearly indicated, it's not that this girl doesn't have enough intelligence to understand that she has to come up. It is not the brain, it is the physical weakness of the body. So don't blame the brain. We invite you to reason differently. So the challenges that the child experiences comes from being too weak, not knowing how, but being too weak. And the problem is in the fascia disconnection and weakness. It's the car, not the driver. Once again, I want to repeat that even before she started with ABR, this girl knew perfectly well what she needed to do to come up. But she couldn't do it. She was physically incapable. There was not enough strength within these fundamental deep tissue connections in her. And once we build these connections, you've seen the remarkable improvement. If we continue our reference with the car, well, it's the entire fascial drivetrain or the powertrain, all the gear shafts and so on, which are disassembled. And the key anchors that compose this drivetrain, this powertrain of movement for the child's body in the cerebral palsy are the chest, shoulder girdle, and the neck. So, and one more time I'll repeat this key conclusion, that once stronger a connected through fascia appears and is being built, then amazing spontaneous progress of weight bearing, movements and position emerges. And the ABR Facts examples are all about the confirmation of this story, bringing you evidence that your child has tons of potential, can improve tremendously. All your child needs is to get extra strength, not wasting your efforts on training and trying to chase those rainbows, but building original strength. Build the drivetrain, don't bug the driver. So, and respectively, this is what we're going to cover even in further detail in part 3, which is called Cerebral Palsy, Weak Quadriplegic Child, 3 main anchors of development. This is the most in-depth digging, which is going to give you the bolts and nuts of the explanation of what exactly you have to look in your child and what exactly has to change in order to bring the child to the new level of quality and actually come out from this struggling to thriving. Thank you very much for completing this video. I hope it has been helpful. It helped you to understand your child's needs better. And I'd like to ask you for a favor. I hope that we can have a dialogue, because so-called social media, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter and so on, provides all sorts of feedback tools. Like and dislike buttons, you can leave comments, you can share videos with your friends. In other words, it allows us to have a real two-way interaction instead of me just being a talking head or a voice behind the slides and the photos and you being just a faceless click for me. Because I put a lot of time and effort into making these videos, hoping that as a parent of a child with cerebral palsy you can get both education and inspiration from them. So I'd really appreciate if you can spend a few seconds and express your opinion. What you've got out of it, positive or negative, helpful or not, worth sharing and so on. The key thing is to hear your voice and to interact. Thank you very much. I really appreciate your time and effort for doing this.